Hello and welcome. We're at the SWIFT African Regional Conference in Accra. I'm with Julian Opuni, who is the Managing Director of Fidelity Bank Ghana. Julian, welcome. Your bank is one of the leading banks in Ghana. So give us a little bit of a feel for the economy and where it's headed at the moment.
Yes, I think Ghana has very positive story to tell at the moment. All main economic indicators are trending in the right direction. So we've seen inflation dropping down to single-digit figures and well within the set targets and the set caps by the government. We've seen growth figures outstripping the rest of the sub-region and also across Africa. And they're more bullish forecasts than even our own internal forecast of Ghana's GDP growth for Ghana for 2019. We've had some challenges with the currency, which stabilized over the last part of the last few months. The country raised 3 billion in a Eurobond issue a couple of months ago.
So that's always a positive sign. A country, if you can raise a Eurobond.
Exactly, highly oversubscribed, and there was in excess of a $20 billion interest in that Eurobond. So that shows you all the indicators are very strong. Going forward, I think there's always been concerns around fiscal discipline going forward, and all the right noises are being made by the current government with regards to making sure we ensure that through an election year, which will be 2020.
You don't overspend.
Yes, that's primarily what their target is, because then if you keep fiscal discipline, then going into 2020, then all the indicators can remain as strong as we expect them to be.
Okay, that's great. So obviously one of the key focuses on any economy, especially an emerging economy, is the strength of the small and medium-sized businesses. And I'm sure you meet a lot of those people in your work. So tell us how they're doing and the kinds of challenges they face.
Like every other country, Ghana, the lifeblood of the economy are SMEs, and they do contribute a huge percentage to the total GDP of the country. Recent figures are showing about $850 million from the banking sector with regards to SME-related revenue across the globe. And so in our part of the world, we view some of their challenges around, obviously, access to finance, access to markets, a couple of others, which is, operating in the regulatory framework. And then finally, probably more important is capacity building. So non-financial services to make SMEs more attractive to financial institutions with regards to granting them access to finance is the main focus of the financial industry in Ghana and also some of the government initiatives.
Because usually with an SME, the problem is they don't always have a good track record of their financial transactions, and they can't give a bank the kind of data that you need to make the credit decision. So how can you help an SME do that?
There are two prongs to this. One of them is, working to create digital platforms which enable us to actually track transactions for SMEs, because we're still a very high cash-driven economy, and therefore that's where the biggest challenge comes in, where they can do a lot of the transactions and you can't actually track it, and with the absence of the right record keeping, etc., it makes a bit of a challenge. So from where we sit, we believe that if we can provide these non-financial services for SMEs, which includes things like, offering them financial services packages, the right level of training, stock keeping, accounting.
And basically professionalize them.
Professionalize them. Then it makes them a lot more attractive for what is most important to them, which is their access to finance for growth. The other discussions around creating access to markets, because sub-region trading is something that normally escapes a lot of our SMEs, which stops them from growing to become the next larger businesses and corporates in our part of the world.
Okay, now one of the themes in the conference is going to be fintechs, and Ghana has a lot of fintechs, doesn't it? So from a bank's point of view, are these fintechs, are they going to disrupt your business, or are you going to work with them?
I think there's a combination of both, and the way forward really is how, as a bank or as a fintech, how you view the collaborative opportunities. Because if you're putting a consumer or a customer at the center of it, I think the collaboration works best, because fintechs bring a new way of thinking with regards to serving consumers in the financial services space, and agility and ability to actually speed to markets with products, etc., which impacts on consumers and increases financial inclusion. A lot of that fast thinking is normally done by fintechs and not so much so by the banks, which are a bit less flexible with regards to movement and changing your way of operations.
So how are you tackling that at Fidelity? Are you actually working with specific fintechs at the moment?
Yes, so we've got lots of partnerships with fintechs for certain initiatives that we're doing, and with most, I mean, there's been a recent bill passed by the central bank which kind of formalizes the operations of fintechs. So it's actually opened the space up for more negotiations. So from a Fidelity point of view, we are, actively looking in the space of coming up with some, structured collaborations with fintechs in our local space.
And just as a last question, so I mean, what can it do for financial inclusion, really? Because you made the linkage between the two.
Yeah. The key thing for financial inclusion is the ability to onboard and bring people into the financial sector
who are outside of it.
Who are outside of it, and the key thing with fintechs is they normally have the ability to create the platforms, understanding the challenges around connectivity in rural areas to help banks to actually bring people on board onto the formalized sector. The creation of digital products can normally be leveraged on the platforms that they've actually created, which also increases financial inclusion in our parts of the world.
Julian, thank you very much for sharing your ideas and have a great conference.
Thank you very much.